Hello, I'm Ron Daley. I'm the strategic partner lead here with the Kentucky Valley Educational Cooperative, a cooperative that serves 23 school districts, including Dr. Paul Green's here, Jackson Independent Schools. And Paul's had a very interesting career. Um, and before he became the superintendent at Jackson Independent, he was a named interim there. And then he was selected by the board as a full-time superintendent, but he had worked at KVEC, where he created the Appalachian Technology Initiative, a very innovative way to provide STEM education across school districts throughout Eastern Kentucky. But he's been a teacher, a coach, a principal. You've worked in the central office, so want to welcome you to this show. And Paul, so tell us a little bit about what's going on with Jackson Independent.
Well, Ron, first off, thank you so much for having me on and giving me a chance to talk about Jackson and all the great things going on at the Jackson Independent School District. Super proud of our little district, of course. This past year, Jackson was one of the highest performing school districts in the state academically, five-star high school. I think we had a rated as the third highest high school in the state of Kentucky in terms of assessment results. Middle school is a four-star school, and I think that a ranking of 28th in the state. So extremely proud of Jackson Independent. Very fortunate to be their superintendent, and just a lot of exciting things going on there, and a lot to talk about.
What is the value of an independent school district? I mean, we have our county school systems, and then you'll have usually the independents that are located in the county seat. What is the value that those students and the parents and the community gets from an independent?
Well, first off, historically, the independents were around prior. They preceded most of your county school districts. So Jackson, of course, was founded in 1910. And served the students of the Jackson area plus the greater Breathitt County area before Breathitt County schools came around. And it's always been, once Breathitt County schools were formed, the Jackson Independent School was the main school district of the city of Jackson. And I think for the most part, throughout the state, independence, it's an alternative to your county school districts. It's a public school. It serves students from the region, but a lot of your county districts or larger districts, they serve a larger student population. And as we know that some students do really well in an environment with a lot of kids, and but other kids they prefer to have the smaller, more intimate setting. We are a K-12 school, one school district. We have small class sizes, a small student body. Everybody knows everybody. It's a very family oriented atmosphere. And it's not for everybody. We have kids that and people that prefer to have more opportunity, and because we're so small, it's hard for us to offer things, like football that you have in larger districts. But we on the other hand, you have kids that really prefer the more family, more small, more nurturing environment that we can provide. And we are a very rigorous school. We have high expectations for our kids, and it creates an environment it's different. It's not the same as you find in all your public schools and your county school districts, but it's a school that it serves our students very well, and we're again very proud of the accomplishments of Jackson Independent Schools.
I had the opportunity recently to visit the school and talk to some elementary and middle school students who had just won in some entrepreneurial competition. It was really neat. I asked the 6 or 7 students that I talked to, how many of you want to be an entrepreneur, create your own jobs, and they all raised their hand.
Yeah. We really focus on entrepreneurism with our student population. We believe that students need to understand business and finding their own way. And of course, in Eastern Kentucky here, one of the big passions that I have is community and economic development. And we know that in order for us to grow locally here in our small rural communities is it's going to take that local entrepreneurialism, the growth from within. We all hold out hope for the large corporation to come in and be the savior to our region. But what we know based on the data and research that we've seen is that the successful rural communities, they grow from within. And so we're trying to instill that at a young age. We're trying to instill in our student population that you can create your own business. There will be opportunities for you here. And ultimately, one of our big goals is to try to provide a atmosphere in which we're not just raising our students to go to college and to leave our small rural community, but find pathways for them to potentially become highly educated, but then be able to remain in our small local community. And we feel like that entrepreneurism is a way to try to get to that.
Well, and then another special challenge that Jackson and Breathitt County used to have a federal courthouse. That meant a lot of jobs, a lot of traffic. Then you lost the tobacco base, lost coal. And so there's been kind of a triple whammy.
Yeah, and I would even add one more. Of course, Lee's College was there as a community college. That was a residential college, and for generations, I actually attended and actually stayed on campus there at Lee's. And so when that college left as well, but I grew up we were tobacco farmers, and when the tobacco industry was left or was bought out, and our farmers lost their tobacco bases, it was a huge loss of jobs. And of course everybody, it's well documented, the coal industry and the collapse of the coal industry in Eastern Kentucky. So it's been tough for our region, and we have to find alternative solutions to the problems we have, and to try to find ways for people to stay.
I won't put you on the spot on this, but there's a book that has come out, J.D. Vance, The Hillbilly Elegy, which talks about a particular family and this young man, whenever he was born there but moved away, talking about his family. And to me, it reinforces negative stereotypes. But anyway, that book came out. There's been a lot of publicity. And then Netflix movie that Ron Howard from Little Opie, who's now the director of that, is going to come out in October. So that's going to bring a lot new attention to Jackson City.
Yeah, and I think we talked to one of our student senate members the other day, and she mentioned that even bad PR is better than no PR. And there's going to be different views about this release of this movie, and we've yet to see how it's going to be portrayed on the big screen. But we are excited that the spotlight and the lens of potentially the nation are going to be on our small local community, and we want people to know and understand the great things that we're doing, and that there is hope, and that our students believe that there is a future for Jackson and for Breathitt County, and that we're going to do everything we can to move in that direction. And we know we have needs, but hopefully this will bring a spotlight to us, and hopefully it will provide an opportunity for us to showcase the good things we are doing. And maybe people out there there will be a renewed interest in the betterment and the maybe a recreation of Jackson.
Well, and you alluded to this. I was amazed by talking to the female and the male student senate members about how optimistic they are about the community, even with those challenges. Like, well, this will give us a chance to tell who we are.
Yeah.
The way we have been portrayed and for decades is not who we are, what our community is. So they're excited about the chance to tell their story.
Yeah, absolutely. And the people of the people of all of Eastern Kentucky are great people, and there's been a lot of stories about the perseverance and the grit of the people from this region, and we just economically it's tough, and but I do think that there is a future for Eastern Kentucky. We just have to work together and find ways to provide opportunity for our people, and the people that want to stay, we want them to be able to stay.
And that leads to another question about your students are engaged in a very exciting community development project working with the city of Jackson. So describe how do they get to the point where they're at, and what are they doing?
Well, we're still in the initial stages. Of course, this is my first year. So one of the things I came in is I had a passion for, we feel like that school districts, we often ask a lot of our local communities, but we are in a position that we can help and we can provide resources and assistance to our local communities. And so instead of us going to our local community businesses and saying, hey, what can you do to help our school? We want to flip that and we want to say to our local community and the local businesses, what can our school do to help you? So what we're starting to do, and we're in the initial stages of this, but we want to engage our local businesses and find out, do you need support in marketing? Do you need support? Our kids are doing website development. They're doing podcasting. They're doing in our entrepreneurial classes, they're creating whole marketing strategies, which include commercials. And yet a lot of our local businesses, they may not have the resources or the ability to be able to create these things and do these things for themselves. But what if we as a school district help them and present them for them, and allow them this resource? What if we do promotional activities? We've talked about having scavenger hunts where we encourage our local people to visit our local shops in downtown region. We've talked about our Main Street program and how do we vision or revision our Main Street? And so we're actually creating a 3D printed scale model of our Main Street. And the initial goal is just to recreate it as it is, but then using our student art classes and our marketing, and let's recreate that and let's look at what it could look like. And so where do people want to visit? What would they like to see? What are the shops and what are the businesses? And can we create that in a model form and then say, hey, look, this is what this could look like. And then how do we bring about resources and how do we make that happen in real life? So a lot of exciting things. A lot of these ideas are coming from our students. But the main goal is to again teach our kids that develop pride in their local community, instill that pride in their local community, but also to build hope, but to encourage them to think about as they get into that career pathway and what do they want to be. I want to be this, but I want to be this here. And I don't have to go to New York City or to a larger metropolitan area to be able to do these things.
Yeah. I was amazed too, for talking to the students, how many of the students want to come back to the region. And we have this, our challenge in Eastern Kentucky is this brain drain that once students leave the area for a job or to get an education, they don't come back. But the students definitely want to come back. Yeah,
I mean, I think that they've grown up here. This is the area that they're familiar with. A lot of them have a lot of family here. They have a lot of roots and ties to the community. They truly enjoy where they are. But the biggest reason why the vast majority of our students end up leaving is it's economic reasons. They go off and they get degrees as engineers or architects or and they can have great jobs, but those jobs, if they come back to Eastern Kentucky and some of our more rural communities, they're going to have to accept positions that they're either going to be not employed or underemployed. And whereas if they go to a larger city, they can earn significantly more money, and that draw is just too much for them to overcome. And so that's the balance, and that's one of the things we talk about, the economic side of things in our rural communities. I think people want to stay. There's a lot to offer in these rural communities, but we have to overcome that economic challenge. And how do we do that? So it's what comes first, the chicken or the egg, and we don't have the answer. But if we build it, they will come. I don't know, but we can vision it, we can talk about it, and we can try to find solutions. And hopefully through time, we can start to solve some of these problems.
Yeah. Well, you love to brag about your students, your teachers, and your school district. You don't brag about yourself. You're very humble about that, and I've had the chance to observe that with you. But you received a major honor just a little over a couple of years ago when President Obama created the Obama Foundation and created an Obama Fellows Program. And so you were a part of a group, and I think one of few rural persons were invited as an Obama Fellow to Chicago. So tell us what that event was all about.
Well, it was a highlight for myself and in my career. It was very unexpected. I still to this day don't know how I was nominated or how the decision was made, but out of the blue, I received a call from folks from the Alabama Foundation and received an invitation to attend, and it was based on the work I'd done here at KVEC and creating the Appalachian Technology Initiative. And I was encouraged to attend, and shortly after I accepted the invitation to attend the summit, they reached out back to me and said that I had been selected to be highlighted at the event and that they were going to send a film crew down. And I was interviewed, and they created a couple of highlight videos about the Appalachian Technology Initiative. I was I guess a preferred guest at this summit. I was able to meet President Obama. I was actually had dinner with Michelle Obama and got to talk to her personally about a lot of the things going on in Eastern Kentucky. I got to meet a lot of really amazing, I mean, truly amazing people. When you talk about names like Prince Harry and Pete Buttigieg, it was an amazing experience. It was amazing 2 or 3 days, but it ended with we had a concert event in the arena there beside of the hotel that the event was in. And then during that event, they had these 90-second video clips of the 5 or 6 different people that had been highlighted. So they showed my video. And a funny story, I was sitting kind of in the top of the arena, and guy sits there and the video's playing, and it's me, and I'm being interviewed and talking about this, that, and the other. And the guy, he looks at me, and he kind of leans back and he looks at me again, and he's like, "Is that you?" And I was like, "Yeah, that's me." And so then everybody around starts shaking my hand and patting me on the back. So it was a really amazing experience, and I have a lot of stories to tell about it. But
yeah, and I heard through the grapevine that Michelle Obama had told you, "Oh, the president wants to meet you. He's so excited about what you've done." And then there was a session, I guess there's probably only about 30 people in it, that Caroline Kennedy, near the close of the event, was moderating, President Kennedy's daughter. And then near the end of it, she said, "Oh, I see we have a visitor in the back. Does he want to say anything?" And y'all turn around, it was President Obama. Yeah. And then he said, "Well, for instance, there's some people in Eastern Kentucky that are doing some amazing things in STEM education, a very creative way so that rural school districts can have quality STEM education. And for the price of one of our bombers, we could replicate this all across the nation." And of course, I'm sure you had to be shocked. And then as the event closed out, then you felt this arm on your shoulder, I was told, and you looked up at President Obama, and then he said, "I hope you don't mind me mentioning."
Yeah. So it was pretty surreal. And that was one of the sessions where you had the Prime Minister of Italy and Pete Buttigieg, and there was a couple other, really big, political names.
And of course, you had David Axelrod.
David Axelrod. Yeah, it was amazing, and it was funny because you look back, like Peter Buttigieg at the time, I didn't even know who he was. And now he's one of the, probably one of the top 5 or 6 contenders for the Democrat nomination. And so, it was surreal. It was one of those events that it was a whirlwind.
And of course, now Prince, Harry's in the news. So
Yeah.
did you have a chance to talk to him?
I didn't. We got a chance, and I met him. I really, truly didn't get to meet him. We were in a session with him, and I was probably about 4 feet away from him. They kind of had security there, but you kind of got it was very intimate. So you got to be in the areas with people. Yeah. I did get to shake Pete Buttigieg's hand as I was leaving, and again, it's funny because at the time I didn't know who he was, and it was when he started running for president.
He probably don't know who you were.
Oh, well, I don't know. But
after the video he did.
Yeah, it was great. But you know what? That was really funny because that was only like 2 weeks after Mark Zuckerberg had visited us here at the Holler. Yeah. So that was a pretty exciting time. I always tell my wife that that was when I peaked. That was my career peak, and everything from that point in time has kind of been downhill. So I hope that's not true. I feel like that we're still doing great work, and I'm appreciative of the work we're doing, and the opportunity I've had in Jackson, and the work we're doing there. And I feel like that, my philosophy is if you do good work and you work hard at what you're doing, that you there's going to be rewards for that. So I felt like that the work that I'd done previous to those events, um, it was good work. And Ron, you were really a part of that. Me and you worked together there for years on a lot of those initiatives and projects and programs. And we did a lot of really good work here at KVEC that I'm proud of. And
Yeah. Well, and I think you were selected because you're an example of what a rural educator is doing to help change the school culture, grow the economy, and all that. So it's a reminder that we have some people here in Eastern Kentucky that are doing some remarkable things that are being recognized nationally and internationally.
yeah, I mean, absolutely. I mean, being from Eastern Kentucky, got a little bit of a chip on my shoulder, about sometimes the stereotypes of people from our region, and but knowing the people that I know that come from here, and the thing about it is, there's so many people that are from this region that are doing great things all over the country, but they had to leave the region, and I think what happens is you have fewer people that actually come back to the region, and then are able to they left for those economic reasons and but they're doing great things all over the country. I think.
Well, you've been around enough to study other things going on in the nation. Why is it, do you think, that here in Eastern Kentucky that we are doing some things in K-12 education that's really not going on elsewhere?
So, that I always talk about. It's about people, and you just have, especially here at KVEC, and not just at KVEC, but in Eastern Kentucky in the schools. The leaders of our schools and our school district are some of the most outstanding people and educators I've ever been around. Of course, Dr. Hawkins and Dr. Boland, Desi Boland here at KVEC are two of the most amazing leaders in any world, educational world, but anything. You just have to give them lots of credit and kudos for the work that they've done in this region. But there are just, you when you have great people, great work follows. And it's not about programs, it's about people. And I think that it's just been good timing. We've had a lot of really great folks in the region that have all come together, and there's been some. We always talk about how how sometimes you get inspired by others, and like for me, when I was around somebody like you, Ron, that's a creative person, that's a great thinker, that you inspired me to think outside the box, and you expanded my horizon about what I need to be thinking about and how I need to go about my work. And it led to a lot of really great things, and I think that the leadership of an organization like KVEC to the schools, it's okay to think outside the box. It's okay to think differently.
It's okay to fail.
And it's absolutely
to innovate and try. And I think we have that culture here, and that's what we're not afraid to fail. It's like we use the Teddy Roosevelt famous "Man in the Arena" speech, to dare greatly.
Yeah. And you know what? We know this firsthand because there were some of the things that we started out, it didn't work.
Yeah.
But we were nimble. We said we're gonna, fail fast. We're not gonna stay down. We're gonna keep going. We're gonna continue. And the vision of the original Race to the Top grant from 6 years ago now, that original vision and what actually was accomplished with that was probably pretty different. A lot of those things that was originally in that for initial grant and what actually took place in the region was completely different, but yet the success was probably tenfold. But some of those original ideas did take and they flourished. Yeah. And so, but yeah, I mean, I think that we're just fortunate enough to have great people, but that's the thing about Eastern Kentucky. You've got great people. Mm-hmm. There are great people here. And there's a lot more great people that are from this region, but they have to leave because it comes back down to the economy of it, the economics. They leave because they want to provide a better life for their family. And when I say better life, it's a financial situation. Yeah. If I can make 100% higher salary in a different community, there's a good chance that I'm going to move into that different community, and that's just the reality.
Do you miss teaching?
Absolutely. I always say the best years of my life was being in the classroom. I taught high school history for 8 years, but since then, I've been an adjunct for a couple different colleges, University of Pikeville, and through the community college system. And I always say that I hope that at some point in time I can get back into the classroom, and that's my ultimate goal is to. When I retire, I want to teach again because I love the classroom, and I will always truly be an educator at heart. And when I say educator, that means a teacher, and I'm a teacher.
for a person that is thinking whether they've already had a different career, when they're thinking about retiring or they want to change a career, or a young person who's going to college, why should they think about becoming a teacher?
Because I think that there's no more fulfilling job out there than being, if you can impact. I mean, so I've had a few experiences where students, adults to the current adults have came back to me and they've sent me messages or notes or phone calls and say, I really appreciate what you did for me. And I've got a couple examples of this where people have sent me letters and notes and say, I really appreciate what you did for me then. And I mean, to think about how you potentially have changed a young person's life.
Okay.
My wife is a reading teacher, and she talks about there's no greater joy in the world than to teaching a kid how to read.
Yeah.
And I mean, you think about that, that I taught that child how to read. And my daughter, she's kind of struggling with what her career choice is going to be. But I've told her several times, I said, you need to be a teacher. You need to be a teacher. And I would encourage anybody, if you don't know, if you have a good rapport with kids and you generally like kids, there's no better profession than being a teacher. And like with any job, there's always going to be things that are going to be upsetting to you, and there's always going to be some things that are hard. But it's and I know there's a little bit of we can talk about. There are some perspectives that kind of put teaching in a negative light, but it's just a great profession.
Okay. Well, with that, Dr. Paul Green, thank you for being on our program. And you can tell the people in Jackson Independent are just very fortunate to have you as their leader and working with their staff and teachers.
Thank you so much. Awesome.